Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in a minute. Just waiting for folks to join. Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. This is Deep Chakraborty from ENACT Systems. I'm joined by Vince Bitts as well and Mark Chapman from our team to share more about our exciting new launch of ENACT Engage for solar and storage projects. Today, we're going to show you a live demo of the Engage platform and talk about some recent projects we have done successfully and also the value proposition for Engage as an app for solar installers. So for those of you who are new to ENACT Systems, a quick intro on what we do. ENACT Systems offers an end-to-end cloud platform for solar and storage projects. We have two offerings. ENACT Envision is used to develop projects remotely, primarily by large developers as well as installers. And they use Envision to remotely design, price, and sell projects, as well as execute such projects with large teams for rooftop as well as ground mount projects. ENACT Engage, which is the focus for our product demo today, is used to manage assets across any inverter type or panel type. It's open to all brands and offers live view of analytics as well as energy management for owners and end users of these sites for homes and businesses. So our platform is therefore fully integrated to the different types of stakeholders, as well as utility rates, creating transparency, reducing costs, and also adding a lot of value to the users who are struggling with different types of systems as we expand from solar to storage. So ENACT Engage is really the topic for conversation today. To get Engage working well, you have to have a good design. And a good design on Envision comes with a complete remote sales as well as project management plan. The sales design enables, of course, not just utility rate savings projections, but detailed pricing down to each line item of the project. The costing of different line items is a key challenge as we see different types of new entrants in the space of solar and storage for hardware as well as for the permitting process. Complete margin planning, cost management is possible through Envision, which leads to accurate proposals and contracts, and final contracts lead to execution. And the projects that get executed in ENACT, you can track milestones, documents, and timelines with team members. Once these projects get installed, Engage comes into the picture, and that's today's demo. Engage is a live app for asset owners and end users. Engage connects through the cloud to the different inverter brands. We do not sell any specific hardware. It's open to all. We connect with monitoring systems. We connect with monitoring platforms and inverter APIs and storage APIs to get us the data that's necessary for the end customer to understand their outcomes. So Engage allows not just energy, but also financial asset transparency. We are going to show you today how we're tracking the live power flow of energy, as well as the live savings view in dollars, adjusted for electric rates and consumption, to make it easy and simple for customers to understand what happened with their money once they decided to go solar uh, through this process. So with that, I'm going to switch over to a live demo of Engage. And the plan today is to have two parts. First, I'm going to show myself some examples of residential and commercial Engage sites. So it's easy for you to understand what Engage does and what does it do for an end customer's perspective. And then Mark Chapman, Director of Services on the call, he's going to show you an example of a commercial project in California that's gone through the whole life cycle, starting with Envision and Engage deployment now, and the learnings we had in that process of how things can be really optimized in terms of outcomes. So I'm switching over here to Enact Engage. I have logged into an Engage site, and you can see on my screen there are several sites that are visible. And on this screen, you will see both residential commercial sites on the same platform. That's the beauty of Engage. It's on one system. A good summary maybe is to look at the table of how many sites. The ones with storage, of course, can be both AC or DC coupled. Some sites are purely solar. Some have solar as well as storage. You can view the map view of all these sites. Most of the sites on my account are in the US. You can see where they are, of course, zoom into the parts that you want to look at. And then for each site, of course, you can see a lot more data when we go into the site view. So I'm going to pull some examples of recent sites that are specifically, I'm going to pull one that has both solar and storage. So it's more fun for you to see what can be possible. So this site has both solar and storage installed. It's in the Pacific time zone, and it's producing solar power right now. It's around 10 o'clock in the morning. The battery is not fully charged. It's getting charged by solar. The home, of course, has less than the load that is being fed by the solar. So the solar can charge the battery and feed the home. It's not drawing much from the grid. You're seeing a little draw from the grid, but that's because of the way we have data flowing through right now. You'll see probably in a few minutes that once the next size is refreshed, it's a cloudy day here. Once the site gets refreshed, you will probably have no grid draw for the most of the day. But that's the starting view. You see the power flow. You can see the generation of solar for the last year or since the system has gone live, and also compare the generation to the projection that was made to the customer. And this, of course, reveals to the customer not just the difference in terms of estimate versus actual, but also makes it easy for the customer to understand what is the reason why the savings targets may not be met. The savings, of course, can come through good generation, but also good tracking of consumption. And consumption tracking is key to making sure that the savings is realized. So in this case, for the month of February, the customer had a 97% estimate versus actual savings on the system, adjusted for consumption and all the electric generation from solar. So tracking of savings and generation along with consumption is one of the key attributes of Engage. The storage system can be tracked live for key elements like state of charge, power flow. In this case, the battery is, as you can see here for the last week, being cycled through its say 30% to 90% state of charge and is going through a discharge. And the important thing here is to make sure the state of charge is always ready for a backup event that's necessary to have a few hours of backup capacity in case there's a grid outage, which requires the customer to save for blackout. In this case, also the customer has full view of the entire transaction. So the first proposal, the journey of the customer to the contracts, the rate tariffs, the hardware used, and so on. So that's the transparency we're providing to end customers, their complete life cycle, their documents, their energy information and pricing information is all made transparent so that the customer has everything in one place, easy to view, and also really easy for them to explain to others. I'm going to pick an example of a commercial building. Unfortunately, this is across the world, so there's no production anymore. It's past 10 p.m. at night. But this is a 2-year-old site on Engage, and we have been tracking it for the CFO of a very large company. And you can see, of course, the generation and the tracking of actual versus estimated, and the comparison of yield, which is important for, this is a megawatt and a half, and it's important for financial investor to understand where they stand versus the target. Of course, also to understand, more importantly, the savings. Where do they stand on the actual dollar savings? Here you can see for the month of February, the savings is higher than estimated in terms of outcome. So hopefully this gives you a good picture of the core value proposition here. Again, we are trying to make it very clear and simple to the customers who are using Engage. Where do they stand on the financial return, and why, and how can they influence it, especially not just for solar, but also solar plus storage. With that, I wanted to hand it over to Mark Chapman to show you an example of a California project that has gone through this entire journey last year and has now gone live. And Mark, maybe you can take over.
Sure, thanks, Deep. And hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Looks like we have people joining in from all over the world. And gonna just give a quick run through of the Envision process of how we came across this project in San Diego. It's a Holiday Inn Express, so I can, from the homepage here, I can see all of my projects, and I'll just go into this particular site where we have all the customer information, utility information, and several quotes that were done for this system. The first thing I want to point out is our flexibility in taking all types of consumption data, whether you have just a annual dollar amount or monthly kilowatt hours or 15-minute or hourly interval file. You can really upload any type of information here in order to model the customer's energy usage. And so when you plug in that, you're able to look at the monthly kilowatt hours and dollars by tier. And then you can also see the estimated hourly consumption. And you can look at that either by season or just the average day in the year. So you can start to look at, peak demand loads, where here you can see that the hotel typically has about a peak demand of about 200 kilowatts, which is really helpful when you're modeling both solar storage and optimizing for energy or demand savings. And so once you have your energy usage input, you can then create a quote. I'm just going to go in and edit an existing quote for time here. And again, we have a very flexible design tool that is able to quickly lay out systems for roofs, ground mounts, carports, any type of tilt rack system, so that you can, quickly and accurately estimate the system capacity and generation from any site in the world. So you can have your own custom hardware library for manufacturers and for panels and inverters that you may use. You can customize the system design. You can capture the image as you want it to appear in your proposal or quote. You see we have a 187 kilowatt system on the roof here. From then you can also just do quick inverter sizing, select different inverter manufacturers and models, and make sure you have the correct DC to AC ratio to maximize your production. You can also add storage options if that's something you do in your area. Right now we're just going to do a solar only quote. And from there you can pick your post PV rate schedule, as there may be rate switching or other things to analyze for optimizing your energy savings. Um, and it's as easy as that to just click on the system results, and it will run the analysis for pre and post solar utility bills, the solar system production, um, the reduction in energy costs. And then you can actually see like the typical day 24-hour load profile, where you can see how much solar you're generating, how much offset, if you have any net metering charges, or where you may need to maybe use energy storage to extend the solar production hours into the evening peak if you have a time of use rate. So you can see here, we're just getting about a 20% offset of the solar system for the usage. And once you have your system design locked in, you can again go to the finance tab, where you can add any incentives. You can have a custom price breakdown that'll automatically price your system with all different hardware and labor line items. You can select all of the tax treatments, both ITC and depreciation. You can compare multiple finance options, lease, loan, PPA. And so that's how we do, an initial analysis on ENACT. And, to tell a little bit of the story of this particular customer, this is where we engaged with the hotel group directly. They came to us asking about their options in solar, getting a rough analysis for system savings and cost. We were able to run a quick analysis using the Envision software I just showed, to give them an idea of, okay, you can fit about 180 or 190 kilowatts on the roof. It can save you 30% on your utility costs. And from there, they decided to move forward. So then we put the project out to bid to several contractors that are on our platform. So those contractors all were able to view the initial analysis in ENACT, come up with their own, design concepts and hardware options, and then, after a site visit, come up with the final quotes. It's very happy to see that, from our initial analysis that can really just take 2 to 3 minutes in ENACT, the final system design, after it was engineered and permitted, was within a kilowatt or two of our preliminary design. So just the accuracy of system sizing and production was spot on. And that really led to a smooth process throughout for the customer. There were no significant changes to the value proposition or the system size. And so that was, overall a great project. So this is just a standard template for our proposals, so that you can have a customer facing proposal that shows all of the system specs, utility offsets, financial metrics, cash flow savings, hardware. And so this is where, again, we have fully customizable templates that can be branded for your company or organization, that can really make a customer facing proposal and analysis in just minutes, and it really helps move the whole process along.
Thanks, Mark. I think that was very helpful. We are getting some questions, so I'm going to take all of those questions together. I wanted to switch over now back to a live view. And Mark, I'm going to share with them what we see now on the live satellite view. I was just looking at it today, right now while you were speaking. This is the real site now. It's available on the satellite view through Nearmap. And it's been installed, of course, and Google hasn't caught up with it yet. But our satellite photographs are showing the actual layout of the system. And more importantly, coming back to Engage, this has gone live on Engage. You can see the actual generation compared to the estimated. It's doing exactly what we had talked about. I know it did go through some iterations and commissioning, and finally, of course, the system is performing. So I hope that gives everyone a good understanding of the journey of a project and what Engage can do in terms of transparency as well as outcome tracking, especially for commercial customers that are investing heavily for financial return, in addition to, of course, the benefits of sustainability and carbon tracking, as well as climate friendly policies. Financials are really important, and transparency is what we bring. How is that all possible? So I want to switch back to some final thoughts on Engage as a product, just to kind of give you an idea of how it's working. Engage is powering the complete life cycle data for the project, which means not just the before, but also the after. We are a single source of truth. To make this happen, we are connected to all the major brands of equipment, leading inverter brands, all major brands of sensing, on-site sensors for homes and buildings, as well as storage, and finally asset management through site controllers. So that's allowing, of course, our partners this single platform to keep track of their projects. And so the value proposition really is to simplify the asset management for such projects, especially when you're adding storage. And even without storage, solar is not easy to get done. So how does Engage help partners? First, it really improves customer engagement. We have found that when you sell a project like Mark was talking about, where you're letting the customer know that you're going to actually measure the outcome live on something like Engage, it takes the conversation to an entirely new level. And developers who are successful, who are holding their work and their outcome on a measurable platform like Engage, earn the trust of the customer, and reduces the friction in the sales process, definitely brings a lot more trust in the outcome. And in the end, of course, all projects have issues. We all know that projects don't often have a smooth outcome, but at least gives customers a way to understand what's going on with full financial transparency. And that reduces a lot of customer service issues later on. We see today that there are multiple inverter platforms out there. Even for residential, you might have 2 or 3 brands of inverters you're selling, and they all have their different apps, and each one of them might have their own types of questions, and they show very little. Once you show the complete information on a single system, like we showed you, it definitely improves your customer engagement, reduces customer service call times and resolution. And more importantly, number 2, with the data in the hands of the customer, you'd be surprised how often they're upgrading their systems. In California, we are seeing engaged customers who've gotten solar. They're adding more panels because they understand they can do better. They're also upgrading to energy storage because they understand the solar savings now exactly, and how much more can they do with storage versus without. And that's a big deal for installers who are looking to upgrade their customers to the next level. And finally, and this is a new trend we're seeing, our early engaged customers are beginning to share their results with their friends, not just the outcomes in terms of dollars, but also the experience, the journey they went through. And this is very important in terms of getting repeat sales. So Engage is available as a private branded app for solar companies. They can leverage the data, then they can leverage this engagement platform to get more referrals from the friends and family members of the target customers who have already installed solar or storage. So with that, that's all we had to share today, and we're open for questions from the audience. If anyone has a question on Engage or the platform or anything related to this, we are open to them.
Thanks, Deep. One question I see in here is just, what geographies and project types are covered by Engage?
Yes, so Engage right now is launched only in the US. We do have select customers in international markets who have been using Engage for over a year. And we're going to gradually open up Engage to international markets. Of course, in terms of Envision alone, it is available in 15 countries. And we have customers using Envision now for several years in over 15 countries. Engage is, of course, an add-on to such customers. There's a question here on pricing. Engage is right now priced through Envision customers. So if you're an existing Envision customer, please reach out to us depending on your level of number of users as well as your history with ENACT. ENACT preferred partners are using Engage now, but we'll open up Engage to all ENACT users in the US so that you can improve your customer engagement as well as, of course, your outcomes with your existing customers. So the pricing is dependent on number of users on the platform and how you're using Envision today. Mark, there's one question on energy storage. Does Engage work for solar and storage for homes? We have a webinar coming up on March 10th, so next week. Mark, maybe you can cover that topic as well.
Sure. Yes, we have the ability to monitor, a number of different inverters and hardware options for residential, so that you can monitor both solar and storage, view your actual savings, your battery state of charge. Again, this is all in a branded app. So rather than giving your standard OEM monitoring app, you can also include that data on a branded app from your company.
Thanks, Mark. So with that, we would like to end the session today, and thank you for joining. For those that have missed, of course, it's recorded and we'll be sharing it. And we look forward to our next webinar, same time next week on the 10th of March, where we're going to cover a lot more new things on the Envision front, specifically on the use of satellite images that we just showed you, and several other things. So again, thank you for joining today, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.